Welcome back to Domestic Dad Cleaning Up the Mess. Today's episode is raw, redemptive, and full of fire. It's a story about depression, doubt, and a shotgun in the lap of a 17-year-old boy, and how God intervened. Joining me is Mason Smith, a youth pastor, missionary, husband, and father. Mason's life didn't begin in chaos. He had a good childhood, a loving family, and a house full of siblings. But at age 12, death cracked his world wide open. First came the loss of a childhood friend, then the murder of an infant cousin, then the numbness, the hopelessness, and the darkness that pulled him toward the brink. In this conversation, Mason opens up about the moment he nearly ended his life and how God showed up in the silence. We talk about the slow climb back, his wrestling match with faith, and how missions work eventually gave him purpose. He shares a story of finding love, building a family, and being called to serve as director for a global missions organization. This isn't a story about surviving. It's about surrender, about walking away from the comfort of a career in ministry to follow God's call into the unknown. It's about fatherhood, humility, obedience, and the kind of legacy we leave when we choose to lead with a limp. If you've ever struggled with purpose, with faith, or with feeling like you don't have what it takes to press on, then this episode is for you. Mason just isn't talking about trusting God. He's living it, one yes at a time. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and lean in. This one's honest, heavy, and full of hope. Grab a mop, because today we're cleaning up the mess. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to let you guys know that Domestic Dad Project is more than just a podcast. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping fathers navigate sobriety, parenting, and personal growth. Our mission is to provide support, resources, and community for dads who want to break cycles, rebuild lives, and become the men their families need. If you'd like to support our work and help us continue to reach more fathers in need, consider donating at domesticdadproject.com. Every contribution helps us expand our programs and change more lives. So just wanted to thank you guys in advance for being part of this mission. Now, let's get into the episode. Has life gotten off track? Are you looking for some inspiration to be a better dad? People say all the time, I'd die for my kids. Okay, but would you live for them? Actually live? Get yourself healthy? Make better choices? Eliminate distractions? Would you lead them more intentionally? Would you get sober? Take better care of yourself, physically and mentally. You'd only have to die once. Your kids don't need you to die for them. They need you to live. Have you thought about getting sober, but you just didn't know where to start? If so, welcome to the Domestic Dad Podcast, your go-to destination for candid discussions on journeys into sobriety, parenting, and personal growth. I'm Nick Barnett, founder of the Domestic Dad Project. I've been a dad since I was 18 years old. I'm also a trauma survivor, an alcoholic, divorced, happily remarried, hardworking, humbled by life, domestic dad. On this podcast, you'll find interviews with people who have walked that path, including myself, coaches, mentors, and pastors who can help guide you on your journey. You're going to need resources and inspiration. You can find that here. This is the community for you to lean into, so you can start living life as a domestic dad. So let's grab a mop and start cleaning up the mess. Okay, so there's that. All right, Mason Smith.
How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Dude, I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Thanks for coming in and doing the podcast with me, man.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you today. Excited to share some cool stories and share all that God has done. And yeah, man, it's just an honor and it's a pleasure to get to be here today for sure.
Yeah, it's a blessing. For me. Okay, man. So the way that I start off all of these podcasts is kind of tell me about your childhood. The reason that I do that is because who we are today is people don't always understand where we came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's
sure.
always, like, they don't understand. There's a good quote that I've used before, the fire and the hammer that it took to make us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tell me about childhood. What was childhood like for you?
Yeah, man. Well, I wish I had a rougher childhood because then I'd have excuses for a lot of my stuff. But honestly, I had a great childhood. I really did. I had two parents that loved me. One of 7 kids. So I have an older brother and I have 5 younger siblings. So our house was full of chaos all the time. But honestly, man, the first 12 years of my life was pretty uneventful, in the best way. We spent a lot of time as family, went on vacations, did the things that a kid would want to do, really. And was Catholic kid growing up. And so when it comes to faith, it was one of those things where we went to mass, we went to church, all the normal stuff. Obviously the Christmas, the Easters are big ones, but we went pretty faithfully. My grandparents are still Catholic, aunts and uncles.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Sumner. So
Sumner. Okay.
Yeah, about an hour from here.
What's the Catholic church out there?
The Catholic Church is Immaculate Conception.
Gotcha.
So it's right on Main Street. Right as you're coming in town, you can't miss it. Beautiful church. I mean, it is beautiful. And I mean, you could say what you want about Catholic churches, but they are beautiful. And it's just it's a peaceful place to be, I guess. And but yeah, grew up Catholic and grew up just living a fairly normal, good life. And when I was about 12 years old, I think, I might be getting my age wrong, but I had a really close friend of mine. So her mom and my mom were best friends. She was a couple years younger than me. And the one day we were sitting at home and my mom came into the living room crying and just had told us, hey, Regan just died in a car accident.
Whoa.
And it was like the first time in my life where I felt something incredibly deep, I guess you could say. Like there'd been really high highs before and really low lows before, but this was a new thing that I'd never experienced before. And what was weird for me was she had just been at our house about a week before. We were hanging out. It was wintertime. We had the 4-wheeler out. We were on the sled, just a ton of fun. And then my mom told me this, and it was just this jarring moment that kind of sent me into this, I guess, next chapter of my life. And I remember going to the funeral and it just being one of the worst experiences of my life.
Yeah, because mortality sets in at that point. For the first time ever, you realize that there's an end.
Exactly. And I knew that, and I was never afraid of death until that moment. I knew that the end was there, but in my head it was always I've been to funerals. I've had people in my life die, but for the first time in my life, this was this is something that could happen to me before I'm 80, before I'm on a deathbed.
Yeah,
like
before
this
I
happen.
have a full life.
Exactly. And it just wrecked me. It completely messed me up. And I like to say I handled it well, but I didn't. And I think more than anything else, I think what that death did is it just revealed kind of what was starting to happen below the surface. I had dealt with kind of depression for a little bit, but I didn't call it depression. I didn't know that's what it was.
Sadness.
Yeah, I was just a little bit more sad than other kids. I had a good life though, so there wasn't any reason for me not to be happy, but I wasn't as happy as everybody else. It was just starting to deal with some stuff. But then when this happened, it really started to kind of unravel into just this mess that became my life in the next couple of years. Fast forward about a year, and I had a cousin of mine who was murdered tragically. Little kid. I mean, he was a baby at this point, was murdered by his mom. And that was just another jarring moment for me, that it was just like okay, death is very, very real. And already trying to deal with the death and the emotions of the first loss and now this loss. And everything just kind of came undone. And it kind of sent me on a spiral for the next couple of years of really just trying to find myself and just trying to find something solid to hold on to. Because the thing about depression is that it's different for a lot of people. I mean, for some people, they can have the really high highs and they can have the really low lows, and the low lows are just the worst thing they've ever experienced. But for me, it was, it just robbed me of everything, of all emotion. And it just made me numb in a lot of ways. And I had a hard time I had a hard time expressing myself, I guess you could say, and expressing the good or the bad. And then when this happened, it was just like I got sucked into all this bad for such a long time that I didn't know how to come back out from it. And as this stuff is happening, we actually left Catholic Church. We ended up going to this other church in Waverly, met some of the most amazing people. And it was right around that time where we started going to this church that I started to think like, okay, I hear about this God. I hear about Jesus. I hear about all the things he can do. Okay, well, I need him to do some stuff. So I'm in the right place. And in a way, it was kind of this hope built up in me again, like, okay, there's a silver line at the end of this. And started going to this church and fell in love with it. And like, it is nobody's fault there at all. And I don't blame anybody, but I remember being at this church when my friend passed away, and people at the church found out, and they have the best intentions. I mean, church people have the best intentions, but it doesn't always work out. And I remember one of the ladies coming up to me, older lady. I knew her before this, and she came up to me. She goes, "Hey, I heard about your friend. I'm so sorry. Hey, we don't always understand the Lord's ways," is what she said to me. And as a 12-year-old kid, it's like, how stupid do you have to be to say that to me? Is what I thought. And I'm like, I just lost one of my best friends. I have no idea how to deal with this. And you think that's going to help, really? Like, you actually thought you were going to say that and it was going to comfort me in some way.
Yeah, dude, church hurt. That's a real thing.
Yeah. And it was in that moment where I still stayed kind of in church and still believed that God could do things, but it was just kind of on my terms in a way. Like, all right, God, I'm going to still give you a shot, but if that's true, you don't get to hurt me anymore. And it really started to evolve and really got to a place where I wasn't finding the healing that I needed. I wasn't finding the freedom that I needed. I wasn't finding.
You were no longer connected.
Yeah. And it finally got to a point where I just told myself, I said, okay, if God is real, then he's not good. Because if he was real, he wouldn't have taken my friend. But if he was good, he wouldn't have taken my friend either. And so I just kind of gave up. And it was one of those things where, I mean, as a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, as much freedom as I could have, I was taking advantage of it. But at the same time, like, I was still going to church every Sunday because my parents made me. Still going to youth group every Wednesday because my parents made me. But I was just going through the motions. I mean, I was just going there just to go. And then that really started to send the depression into a spiral. And got through middle school, got into high school, and depression just got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And became incredibly isolated, became incredibly distant from my family, from my friends, from really everything that mattered. And wasn't doing very, very well in school. But I remember there was one day I was sitting in biology class. Second year I was taking biology because I flunked the first year. Sitting in biology. And I remember the day before thinking like, man, we just took this big test. I'm a little bit behind, but I think I crushed this test. It's going to get me ahead. It's like, okay, like in my head, I'm like, this is the hope that I needed to really kind of get my life back on track. And I remember the teacher coming by, looking at my test, kind of sliding it to me face down. And I remember picking it up and just seeing a big F on it, like 33%. And I remember in that moment just thinking like, all right, this isn't worth it. Like I thought that I could fix this. I thought I could get back on track. I thought that I thought that I had a little bit of hope here, but I obviously don't. And so I excused myself, went to the bathroom, sat in the bathroom for a little bit, and kind of just sat on the toilet and just talked myself into it and just said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I'm going to kill myself. And so I got out of the bathroom, snuck out of school, went home that day during school. So parents are at work. Siblings are all at school, went up to my room, locked the door. My parents had got me a shotgun a couple years before that. I love hunting, love the outdoors. And so grabbed my shotgun from underneath the bed, put a shotgun shell in it, and sat on my lap, and then just kind of sat there and thought, okay, the reality of it kind of hit me. And I was like, okay, I'm not scared of this, which is weird, but I feel like I should be. And so I just kind of said, okay, God, this is your chance. If you're real, I need you to show me. I need you to save me, and I need you to do something big right now. And next thing that happened can only be answered by a miracle. It was an act of God, but I mean, I blacked out at that point. I don't remember anything else. And I remember waking up the next morning as if nothing had happened. I looked underneath my bed, shotgun was there, unloaded. And I sat up in bed for a second thinking like, okay, was that really just like a dream? Like,
Yeah.
this is like,
That was surreal.
It was surreal. And I sat there like trying to convince myself that that wasn't real, that it was all just a dream. And I couldn't do it. I was like, no, that just happened. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why it happened. I don't know why God chose to do that, but God did it. And I can't ignore it. And so I went to school that day and just carried on.
Yeah. You kind of got to, at that point, you got to kind of sit there and go, all right, so I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wants me here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at the time I'm just a teenage kid, still trying to figure life out. I mean, I'm still trying to fit into school, still trying to make it in athletics and all these things. And so this kind of wrestle began of like, okay, God saved me for a reason, but also I'm still trying to live my life. And really for the rest of high school was really that for me, where I was very aware and very conscious that God was real and that God had saved me for a reason. But I was also very much trying to live for myself and very much trying to live with my foot in both camps in a way.
Yeah. You were on the fence.
Exactly.
Have you heard that one before?
Yeah. 100%. And like looking back on it, it's so weird because I'm like, dude, God saved you from suicide. And the fact that I wasn't all in right in that moment is weird to me.
Yeah.
But I think I wasn't fully ready to kind of jump into life that God had for me, because I knew deep down that like in that moment when God saved me, he wasn't saving me just to go live my life like everybody else. Like he was saving me to be completely obedient to him. And I just don't think I was ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah. He gave you the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I do want to share this though. There's this old story that goes like, and it's about sitting on the fence. There's a man, he's in the middle of a field. He wakes up middle of the night. He's in the middle of a field and there's a fence in the middle of it.
Yep.
And on one side of the fence is God.
Yep.
And on the other side of the fence is the devil. And the devil's in his ear and he's like, hey, who are you going to choose?
Yeah.
I want you to choose me. If
Yep.
you choose me, I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you all the good times you could ever ask for. It's
Yep.
going to be easy. It's going to be
Yep.
great. You're going to
Yep.
have everything that you want, but just choose me.
Yep.
Don't choose him. And the guy looks at him and he realizes what's the proposition here.
Yep.
And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm
Yep.
going to sit right here on the fence. Cause he knows over here, it's hard
Yep.
with God.
Yep.
He knows over here, it's easy with the devil,
Yep.
but he doesn't want to give the devil everything. So he sits
Exactly.
on the fence and
Yep.
he laughs at them both. And he says, nah, I'm going to take a little bit of you and I'm going to take a little bit of you.
Yep.
And in that moment, everything goes dark.
Yep.
And out of the darkness comes Satan.
Yep.
And he grabs him by the arm and he yanks on him. And he goes, no. I didn't choose you.
Yep.
Man. He's like, I didn't choose you. And the devil leans in and whispers in his ear. He goes, well, the man says, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
Yep.
I didn't choose either of you. And,
Yep.
and the devil says, well, that fence belongs to me.
Yep.
You know? So
100%.
and I always go back to that imagery in
Yeah.
my head of that story. And it's like, dang, what are you doing right now, Nick? To stay away from that fence.
Yeah.
Because it's calling your name.
Yeah.
It's telling you, it wants you to like, come on closer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's something that I think all of us struggle with in our life.
Oh, yeah.
To stay off the fence.
Yeah. I've heard it said before too. Like Satan doesn't need you out murdering people, stealing, doing all these things. He just needs you not doing what God wants you to do.
Yeah.
And that can look like sleeping in a little bit longer than you probably should.
Yeah.
That can look like staying out an extra half hour than you probably should. It's just like, it doesn't take much. Like, and I think for me, it was that like, I wasn't out doing like the big things we think of. I was not all the way in. Like I was just going through the motions is really what it is. And I remember as this time is going on too, I had the dream of becoming a Marine. So I was going to go into military, go into the Marines, and been training, been meeting up with a bunch of other recruits, and like this was my plan. I was excited for it. And I remember talking to my recruiter and saying, hey, on August 12th, I turn 18. August 13th, I want you at my house signing these papers. And sure enough, August 13th, he's in my house, signed the papers, was going to be going in. So that was couple weeks before my senior year of high school, and signed the papers, sent in all the medical things. And on my medical record, there was, I had a hip surgery when I was 16. And
like a whole hip.
Yeah.
I'm due for one at 42 here in June. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Afterwards. Sorry. Didn't mean to derail you. But I'm like,
You're good. Yeah.
We can talk about this.
And on it, we asked him, we just said, hey, is this going to cause any issues? And he's like, no, I've sent people through with this before. You have no issues, nothing to worry about. But there was just something in the back of my mind that was just like lingering, like, I think this is going to come back to bite me.
Yeah.
And, literally a week into my senior year, I get a call from my recruiter, and he's like, hey, I got bad news, bud. Medical won't let you through because of this hip issue. Hey, it's been a fun 4 years.
What the heck?
Good luck to you, man. And like my whole life just crumbled again.
Did
like,
you feel a little used for
100%.
that? Like, sorry, I don't mean to like dive into like the nitty gritty of it, but like,
no,
that had to be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was so it was hard because, like, I mean, again, I don't want to come down too hard on, because like it's his job. Like, I get it. Build the relationship with these kids, send them off, move on to the next batch. Like, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I just gave you 4 years of my life. And the whole time you're talking this up, the whole time you're prepping me for this, like, you're green light in everything I do. And like, I don't have a plan B. Like, I'm putting my plan A in this, and you're telling me that's okay. And then you end it all with a 30-second phone call. Like, that was really hard for me.
Jeez.
Yeah, that even to this day, there's still a little bit there that I got to deal with for sure. But then the reality of just like, okay, I'm going into my senior year and I have no idea what I'm doing now. Just really hit, because I mean, I was not a great student. I mean, I was a smart kid. I was just lazy. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I think we all are at that stage.
Yeah.
Unless we're like uniquely driven in some 10% of population have it, and the rest of us just don't.
Ain't me.
Yeah.
But I went into my senior year just really unsure of what I was going to do. And so really struggled my way through my senior year, got to the very last semester, had one class that I wasn't doing well in, but had an incredible teacher that really, really stuck her neck out for me, really put in a lot of extra work to give me the opportunity to get some extra credits to graduate. And really, by the grace of God, I graduated high school. I don't know what my GPA was, but I think it was just enough.
Yeah.
But then obviously after that, I'm like, okay, well, now what? I haven't applied for any colleges. No college would accept me anyway. So I don't even know why I would try and apply, but I need to do something. And so a couple of my friends were going to Hawkeye, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do anything, might as well just hang out with some friends. And so I applied to Hawkeye. I got accepted, was going there for about a year and a half. And during this time, like, life was just boring. I mean, there wasn't anything exceptional happening, but it was also during this time where I'm 18. I just moved out of the house. I have this freedom, and I'm like, well, I don't want to go to church.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to church every Sunday. I don't want to do the things my parents do. Maybe I want to stay out a little late on Saturday. And so like, I did the things a college kid would do. But about a year into that, I was taking my dog out on Sunday morning, out of my apartment, take him out to go to the bathroom. And I remember walking down my stairs, let him go, going back up. And I remember going to open my door. And before, I just felt like God told me, like, hey, turn around, just turn around. And I was on, so the Hawkeye Towers apartments. So the stairs to kind of go up, it's all outdoors and everything.
Sure. Yep. And
I remember turning around, I remember looking, and just like this, he just said, hey, the parking lot's full. I was just like, yeah. He's like, Sunday morning. The parking lot was full last night too. He goes, nobody's going to church this morning, including you. And I called you to be different. And I remember just feeling the weight of like, whew. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Yep. I hear you loud and clear, God. And
are you familiar? You're a pastor, so you are, but are you familiar with the story of Jonah and the whale?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel a little bit like Jonah in that moment?
100%.
Like, I have been
100%.
running from this for as long as I can.
Yep. 100%.
And I just got swallowed up by a whale.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, you can't it's consuming you.
Yeah.
Like, you could ignore it all you want, but you're in it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean, at that point it was already like, well, I'm a little bit hungover. It's getting a little bit late, so I'm probably going to miss most church services. But I was like, okay, God, next week I'm going. And as the week goes on, it's like, maybe I'll watch something maybe. And then my dad ends up calling me on Friday, which was not abnormal, but it wasn't what I was expecting. He just wanted to call and check in and everything. And we're just talking. And finally, my dad just goes, hey, how's your faith in God lately? I was like, I mean, it's there. He goes, yeah, it's always there. But like, how is it? He goes, let me ask you this. Are you going to church right now? I'm like, no, Dad.
Dude.
No, I'm not. And he goes, you need to. And I told him, I said, well, actually, like this last Sunday, God really convicted me. And I said, I told him I was going to go this Sunday, but I was actually just talking myself out of it yesterday. And he goes, okay, where are you going Sunday? I said, I don't know. I know we went to this church at one point. I was thinking of going checking them out. He goes, okay, I'll meet you there. What service? I was like, what times do they have? I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't looked this up yet.
So we ended up going and just end up starting to go to church again. And again, I don't want to say there was like this big moment where I was like, oh, and I found God again in this moment. But I was just like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's just kind of like working out. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. And I'm not seeing a lot of progress, but I know it's still good for me type of thing. And so I just kept going to church and I kept going. And after about a year was starting to feel like, okay, I feel like I'm getting on the right track, but I started to get really dissatisfied with life. I was going to college just simply because I didn't know what else to do. Meeting up with friends, living the college life, just kind of wasting my life. And my mom one day texted me out of the blue, was like, hey, let's get lunch. I was like, okay, cool. Awesome. Would love to. We go get lunch and she's just like asked me questions like, hey, how's life been? Like, again, same thing. Like, how's your relationship with God? Like, what's going on? And then out of the blue, she just says, hey, have you ever thought about doing missions work?
Ooh.
And I was like, no, not really. She goes, well, you're like pretty adventurous and you love to just kind of do dangerous things.
She knows what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
She's trying to point you out a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And she goes, I just feel like missions would be like a good fit for you. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'd be down for it. She goes, well, hey, I found this website of this organization. I brought my computer. I want you to check it out. Check out this little promo video. I was like, okay, cool. And we're at the Pizza Ranch in Cedar Falls. And she just shows me your computer. And it's like a 1.5 minute video. And I get about 30 seconds into the video and just the conviction of the Holy Spirit just hits me. And I just shut the laptop and I was like, hey, I don't need to see anymore. I know that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. She goes, oh, really? I said, yeah. Like, what do I have to do? She goes, well, I emailed somebody already. So let's talk to them. Let's get you connected. And was able to get connected, was able to contact them, get accepted for this trip. And then in, September of 2015, ended up going on this trip. That was about 11 months long. And on this trip, God just completely changed my world. Up until that point, like I knew that God was real because he had saved me. I knew that God had a plan, but I didn't know what it looked like. But it was in that moment and it was over this trip that I really started to understand that God cared, that God personally wanted a relationship with me.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't just like this, go through the motions, go to church, check this box. Like he was a person to know. And he was a person that genuinely cared about me. And I tell people, like I fell in love with God on that trip. Like he loved me long before that, but like I actually loved God on this trip. Like I started to fall in love with his word. I started to fall in love with prayer. I started to do the things that good Christians should do, not because a good Christian should do it, but because I wanted to do it. Like I wanted to spend time with him. I wanted to get to know him. I wanted to get to know him in the ways that he, gets angry, the things that makes him happy, the things that makes him sad, the things that gets him excited. And really over this year, like I just developed a close, intimate relationship with God and it completely transformed my life and ended up coming back home for just a short amount of time, going back out on the field for another probably about a year or so. And just continue to just fall in love with God, fall in love with his people throughout the world, and really kind of told myself like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like in that moment, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. Like, I know it. Like, this is why God saved me. And then after those 2 years, just felt like the Lord told me to come back home. And it broke my heart. Cause I'm like, no, this is what I love to do. Like, this is the thing that you've saved me for. Like, I've never been excited to do anything in my life up until this point, and now I'm doing this, and you're calling me out of it. And he's like, listen, you're a little arrogant and you need to grow up. And so we're going to go back home. You're going to get a good church, and you're going to
you
just
have to have
grow
a
up.
foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have accountability partners. You got to
Exactly.
have people to fall back into. Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Up until that point, it's like, man, you're running off of just adrenaline and making up for your bad decisions.
And that ain't going to cut it.
Exactly. Like, hey, let's actually do something that's going to be sustainable. Let's actually do something that's going to build a legacy.
I want to feed you.
Exactly. And
truly, that's what it is. It's kind of like, hey man, like you're doing everything because you feel it, but we can feel like momentum and charged up for like adrenaline, if you will, like as we compete in sports. But if we didn't eat right the night before, if we don't have the food to fuel our bodies, we can't compete at the highest level.
Absolutely.
And that's what you needed, dude. You needed the food. You needed the spiritual food to fall back into.
And even more than that too, I think, like I started reading the word and started to really understand it. And I kept hearing like these references to the bride of Christ, the bride of Christ, the bride of Christ. And just like that's the church. And finally it got to a point where I was just kind of dragging my feet, and God said, hey, listen, you love me, but you don't love my bride. He goes, you love me, but you don't love the thing that I love the most. And I was like, ooh, that feels weird. Yeah. Okay. No, I hear you. I hear you, God. And so I came home and I just said, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to local church. And so started to go to the church that I was going to before we left, small church back in Sumner. Just wasn't a good fit. Just was looking for something different.
Yeah.
And at the time,
this was at Catholic church?
No. So we ended up leaving the Catholic church, going to a church in Waverly, and then end up just going to this church in my hometown, just for somewhere closer. And then the one day I was just praying and just saying, God, I want to go to church, but I want to enjoy it. I want to go to a church that like is going to fill me, is going to encourage me, but shares a similar vision for this as well. And next day I got a text from a girl who was the roommate of an ex-girlfriend. So I knew her from years ago when I was in college. She texts me out of the blue and she goes, hey, I noticed you're back in town. I just want you to know, if you're ever looking for a church to check out, I would love for you to come to my church. I said, awesome. What church is it? She told me, and I said, hey, I'll be there this Sunday. What service are you going to? She told me, we went to the same service, and I was able to go and absolutely loved it. So Hope City Church, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
And went to the church and just very quickly got connected. I mean, I love the church. The church is very missional, very much about not just preaching the word of God, but doing the word of God, doing the will of God, and very just aligned with everything that I was passionate about. And got connected with them, started serving with the youth group, started getting connected with their leadership academy. Pastor Q and I got connected. And after a couple months, Pastor Q reached out to me and just said, hey, we've got this leadership thing coming up. We'd love for you to apply for it. It's a residency program, so you'll get paid for it. It's a full-time job, but we're also going to train you and just teach you what is ministry within the church. And so I applied for it, got accepted, and in January of 2018 became the youth ministry resident. And after a couple months, got accepted full-time as the youth pastor, basically. And so was there for 7 years, and it's some of the craziest, best, worst 7 years of my life, and all of it, man. I mean, youth ministry is a beast.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, really the goal of what God wanted to do with that time was accomplished. Like, when I left mission field, I knew I was coming back to it, and I was excited for it. And it seemed like every year, like that passion just built and grew and grew and grew. And then I met my wife. My wife had a passion for missions, went on mission trips as well. And then that passion just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And then we ended up having kids, and that passion continued to grow, but it started to look different. And then we had our second kid. And then I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
You skipped a big part. Meeting your wife.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other podcast in itself.
Oh, okay.
But,
All right.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I met my wife. I mean, she's incredible.
knowing what you do now, I think it's important to like at least speak to who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my wife is, so my wife is a second generation pastor's kid, and,
filled with the Holy Spirit,
filled with it, man, filled with it. And, is just an incredible woman. I mean, like, I'll say this for any young guys out there listening. I didn't find my wife until I stopped looking for a wife.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying really hard to meet the right one. I mean, I dated plenty. I had gotten around. I had done all the things. I had done a lot of right, a lot of wrong. And got to a point in my life where I was like serious, like, okay, I'm dating to marry at this point. And dated a couple girls. And I mean, very quickly knew this isn't going to work. So I'm not going to keep it going. I'm not going to string her on. And then finally just got to a point where I just said, you know what, God, I've always wanted to be a father. I've always wanted to be a husband, but if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. And it was in that moment.
You submitted.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever you got, God, I'm okay with.
Yeah. And I just said, all right, God, but yeah, exactly. Whatever you have, I'm for it. And, was, I don't know if she'll be mad that I'm sharing this, but it's okay if she is. End up going on a date with this girl, and, worked out. Second one was kind of like this second date's a little weird. And we both just kind of agreed, like, hey, I don't think this is going to work. We've been friends for a long time. We're like, well, let's try it.
Yeah.
And after the second date was like, let's just go back to being friends. And about a week later, I meet this girl at this camp that I'm working at. And we just both hit it off right away. I'm like, that girl's adorable. I like her. And start talking. We get connected a little bit. And I do as any millennial does, and I go on Instagram and start looking for her, come to find her, and I find a picture of her and this girl that I just went on a date with all over her Instagram. I was like, oh no. And so I text her and I just said, hey, do you know so-and-so? She goes, yeah, she's like one of my best friends from high school. I'm like, cool. She goes, super funny. She just texted me the same question. I was like, oh, so she's interested? She goes, yeah. And she goes, honestly, I think you two would be really good together. You should talk to her. I was like, sweet. Like, you're not weird about this? She goes, no, we're fine. I said, cool. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
And so, end up talking to her, and, went on our first date in, August of 2018, and, just hit it off right away, and just knew, like I said, I got really serious about it, earlier that year, and just kind of got to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to mess around. Like, if there's a second date, there's a little something. If there's a third date, this is really serious. And after the first date, I was like, no, there's something here. There's something serious here.
Yeah.
Second date, third date, fourth date. And after the probably fifth date, I was like, this is the closest I've ever been, God. Like, I don't know what this feels like, but she might be the one. And, we just started talking seriously, couple months later. And, then my wife committed to going on, or my girlfriend at the time committed to going on this, mission trip, and was overseas for a couple months. And it was exciting to me, because obviously it's missions. I love missions, but it was also like, I'm like, we're doing great. Like, I love this. We're loving our relationship, and now we have to do it long distance. Like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I felt like the Lord told me, hey, listen, if this works, like, if you can make this long distance work, you guys can make this work. Like, then you know.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, know what I know now, and doing what I do now makes a ton of sense, because there's times where I'm gone for a couple weeks and we're back to Skype.
Yeah, you guys had to go through the fire.
We had to go through the fire. Exactly.
You had to be challenged in that arena in order to be able to get to where you're at today.
Exactly. Yeah. And so my wife went on this trip for a couple months, and then she ended up coming home because of COVID. So she was in Costa Rica when COVID hit. And so they basically gave their team an ultimatum. Hey, you either leave now or you don't leave for a unforeseen amount of time. And so they got the first flight home, and within a couple weeks of her getting home, I proposed, and we got married later that year. And so coming up this October will be 5 years with my wife and I. And so it's been an incredible journey. And I mean, being a husband was something I've always looked forward to, and I couldn't have imagined how much more difficult it would be than I imagined, but how much better. It's unreal. Like,
a loving relationship with a wife is like the biggest blessing that God gives to us as men.
It is most undeserving blessing too.
Yes.
Like
100%.
Like I do not deserve my wife. I'll be the first and the last person to ever say that.
Me too. I think any good husband would.
Good husband would say the same thing.
Yeah. We don't deserve them.
Absolutely.
Don't deserve them.
Yeah. But no, she's amazing. And like, I love my wife to death when it was just us two, but seeing her become a mother, and seeing her love my boys is just, it's another level, man. Like seeing her hold my son for the first time was special. And I don't tell her this enough, and I know I need to, but like she was made to be a mom, you know, and just seeing her do that is just, it's a blessing to me, you know, like it makes working hard a lot easier. Like I'm not working hard just to get a paycheck. I'm not working hard to pay the bills. I'm not working hard to do this thing. No, I'm working hard because I get to see my wife and my sons like live the life that they're supposed to live, you know, and see her live in the fullness of really who God created her to be. You know, and I pray that every man gets the opportunity to do that and to experience that. Cause like you said, it's special. Like it just is, man. It just is. And kind of going back to what I said, like that's something worth waiting for. Like that's something worth like praying about and pursuing God for. So like I always tell young guys like that want to get married, like, man, put in the work, be the man that like she deserves to have, but also like, man, it's worth waiting for. If you got to wait 40 years, wait.
Yeah.
If you got to wait 20 years, wait. Cause like, it's worth it. It just is. I can't tell you any more than that. It's just worth it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I would agree with you. And there's not much more you can really say about it. It's worth the journey.
It is. Absolutely.
Sorry, I got you off track there.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I think that's important, man. I think knowing what you do today and what your mission is today. I mean, I think it's important to know who's standing behind you, who's supporting
100%,
you, you know,
100%. Yeah. It's, I'm really grateful for my time at Hope City. But more than anything, I'm grateful for the care and the guidance and leadership of Pastor Q. I mean, he is an incredible man. And, when I first got married, he called me into his office and he asked me point blank. He said, "Hey, is your wife called into ministry?" And I was like, "Why are you trying to hire her too? Like, let's pay these bills." Absolutely. And he's like, "No, because if you're called into it, she has to be called into it."
Yeah.
Cause like, there's gonna be times where you got to take 2 a.m. phone calls. There's times you got to be at the church for 14 hours. There's times when you got to do this thing. And he goes, and if she's not called into it as equally as you are,
it ain't gonna work.
Then it's going to be a compete. It's going to compete with each other. And he goes, either your wife is going to get too much or the church is going to get too much. And there's always going to be animosity between the two. He goes, but if she's also called into it, she's going to understand. She's going to understand that it's not just your burden to carry, but it's also hers.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that because it has prevented so many fights. But it's also just made hard conversations a lot easier. Because I know, like, when I was still working at the church, like, there would be days where, I was at the church for 16 hours a day, every Sunday for a whole year, you know? And not that my wife didn't love, like, not that my wife was excited about that. She was like, "Oh, I'm away from my husband for 16 hours. But like, she understood. She was just like, "No, this is what he's called into." And because he's called into this, I'm called into being a homemaker. I'm being called into taking care of our boys, to preparing a place where when he comes home, he can be home. He can be present, you know? And like, when he comes home crying because this thing happened at youth, like, I'm there to support him. When he comes home angry, I'm there to talk him off the ledge. Like, it's not a lesser role at all. And I think that's the thing that some people get upset about. It's just like, it's different. It is not lesser at all. Like, I could not do what I do without my wife, because we're doing it together. We're just doing different jobs. But we're as the Bible calls it, we're equally yoked. Like, we're walking in the same direction. We're pulling the same weight. So, yeah.
I love that. So you were telling me that, so you had gotten to Hope, and you had called you into ministry.
Yep.
And you started doing that at some of the best times and hardest times of your life.
100%.
What happened next?
So, was just in ministry and just loving it. And like I said, was really got to a point where I loved it and I didn't want to leave, which was an issue because I had forgotten what the Lord initially called me to. The Lord had called me to missions. Like that is the thing that he has put on my heart until the day I die. And we were at this coffee shop up in Wisconsin, just getting away on a little vacation. And I remember at this coffee shop, the Lord basically telling me like, hey, you've stopped trusting me. You're choosing the safe route. He goes, you're starting to make ministry a career. He goes, you don't need anything from me anymore. And he goes, that's dangerous. He goes, I need you to trust me. I need you to be able to step out in faith and to trust me in new ways. And I was just like, okay, yeah, awesome. All of this sounds exciting. Like not even a little bit.
It's hard. It's hard to comprehend when God says, hey, I got the money.
Yep.
I got the money.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whatever I need you to do my work, but I got your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. And because in that moment too, it's like, I mean, like looking back on it, I can honestly say like, yeah, I was going through the motions. Like I love what I did. I gave it my all. Like I was passionate about it, but there wasn't that day to day, like, all right, God, I'm really leaning into you to do this thing. Like I perfected my craft in a way. Like, okay, I don't need to pray to God about this thing because I've done it 100 times. I can do it. I don't need to pray to God about this thing. I've done it a dozen times. I can do it. And I was just going through the motions again. And he's just like, hey, you're not leaning on me anymore. And there was already a little bit of dissatisfaction where I was like, okay, God, like I feel like something's about to change. And while we were on this trip, it was just the craziest thing. We were there and we were sitting at this table. It was me, my wife, and my oldest son. My youngest son hadn't been born yet. And we're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden there's this kind of older couple that's kind of off to the side talking. And eventually the place starts to filter out and it's just us two left. And this older guy was just like, hey, how you guys doing? And hey, you got a great kid. It's so fun watching young families. I was like, oh man, yeah, it's a beautiful day. We appreciate it. And he just was like, are you guys believers? We're like, yeah, we are, as a matter of fact. And the only thing I told him is I said, actually, I'm a pastor at a church in Iowa. And that's all that I told him. And he said, oh, that's awesome. He goes, we work in a ministry in Missouri, and we love it, and it's amazing. And we just started talking about life, talking about faith. And at no point did I talk to him about missions, our past in missions, my passion for it. And pretty soon this guy just kind of stops mid-sentence what he's saying, and he just looked at me. He goes, I feel like the Lord has something to say to you. I said, oh, okay, cool. And I said, yeah. He goes, I feel like I have something I need to say to you from the Lord. And immediately I was like, no, dude, like I'm not having one of these. But I was like, man, whatever. Like, do your thing, dude. Like, I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to like receive it, but you can say it. I didn't tell him that, but I was just like, yeah, man, yeah, whatever you guys say, go for it. And he just starts talking, and within 20 seconds, I'm in tears. And I'm just like, I knew the Lord was like speaking. And he starts talking, and then his wife goes, yeah, and I feel like I have something to say to your wife as well. And so she starts talking to my wife, and like, we're both having separate conversations, but both of us are just in tears. It's just an absolute mess. And by the very end of it, this guy goes, hey, I feel like Paul, for the longest time, was feeding into Timothy. And then at some point, Timothy had to step out, and he had to continue to do his mission that God had given him. He goes, I feel like you're no longer a Timothy. I feel like you're becoming a Paul, and you're supposed to do the thing. And then he said, just as Paul went out on his missionary journey, God's calling you on your missionary journey. And it just clicked. And I just kind of broke down. And the guy, once he got done, he goes, I hope that wasn't too weird. And I just told the guy, I said, hey, you need to understand how accurate that all was. I said, my wife and I are super passionate about missions. It's something we've cared very deeply about, but didn't really know where the next step was, when it would come. We knew God was going to call us eventually, but started to get to a point where we didn't really care when it came. We were comfortable, but like, we know he's calling us back to this now. And it just split us open. And after that conversation, we went back to the cabin, and I just processed for the next 6 hours. I just started writing on my computer, just praying, processing. And that night at dinner, we were talking, we're like, hey, we need to talk, and we just need to pray and fast about this, because this is a big decision. And if God is calling us to this, like, then we're going to obey, but we need to really make sure this is God. And so for the next couple of weeks, we were praying and fasting. And after those 2 weeks were up, we both were like, no, this is what we're called into. And then we had conversations with different people at the church. So had conversations with Pastor Q, had conversations with some of our kind of mentors and some of the people discipling us. All of them gave us guidance and wisdom, but all of them were like, no, this is God calling you. Like, this is your time. And just changed everything. I mean, it really did. And over the next couple months, started to apply for jobs, started to look at different organizations, and just was hitting kind of dead end after dead end after dead end. Applied for a couple jobs, got accepted, wasn't a good fit. Found a couple other jobs, good paycheck, but just missing a couple things here. And it just got to a point where I just felt like there wasn't any more opportunities, and just kind of broke down. I just said, God, I feel like you're calling me into this, but I don't want to just settle. Like, I don't want to just settle and wait for something else to come. Like, I want to do what you're calling me to do, but I need you to open door for what that looks like. And through, his provision, door opened. It's just another kind of crazy story in and of itself. Was talking to my old youth pastor when I was in high school, and got me connected with my old youth leader who works for a missions organization. And this was on like a Monday afternoon or whatever. And just told him where I was at. And he's like, hey, we're actually opening up a new job. It'll be open on Wednesday. How about you apply on Tuesday though? That way we can get you in ahead of time, and then we'll see what we can do. And so talked to him on Monday, applied on Tuesday, had a first interview on Wednesday, second interview on Thursday, job offer on Friday. And it was just like months of just dead end after dead end after dead end after dead end. And then in just like this 1 week's time, every single prayer about it got answered. And my wife and I were sitting down talking, and I just said, man, is this God's will? Like, is this what we're supposed to do? And my wife just lovingly was like, are you kidding me right now? Of course it is.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
Like, you're a smart man. You're smarter than this. You know, this is what God is doing. And I was like, well, yeah, but I just want to make sure. She goes, honey, this is faith. We think this is what we're supposed to do, but we're scared, but we're going to step into it anyway and trust. Because she goes, here's the thing. Even if we get it wrong, we're doing our best to follow God's will. He'll take care of us. I was like, yep, you're right. And so stepped out in faith, applied for the job, or accepted the job, and been officially working there since July of last year of 2024. And so, so I work as the Asia director for a missions organization. So we train up missionaries and pastors all over the world. My primary area is in Asia, and just training them up to raise up more missionaries. So our goal is more missionaries, more churches, more pastors to reach more people.
Yeah.
There's still millions.
Go tell people about Jesus where Jesus doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's still billions of people that don't know Jesus. And our goal is one pastor, one missionary at a time, equip them to go out and reach more people. Like
that's important work, dude.
Yeah.
That is some of the most important work.
Yeah.
And some of the listeners, I don't know, maybe you guys aren't as faithful. But I do think that, that most of you are. And, here's the thing. When you are tasked with taking Jesus to like a very dark place.
Yeah.
And when I say dark, I don't mean like it's like physically dark. I mean it's like spiritually dark.
Yeah.
Like bad things have happened. A lot of bad stuff has been seen.
Yeah.
The dark underbelly of the world is very, very alive and present in those areas.
Yeah. And
you are tasked with training and taking Jesus into those places and showing people what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is territory, dude. That is like you are going and taking territory from the enemy. And I feel like that we need to support that. We need to get behind people that do that because it requires courage.
Yeah.
And obedience and trust and all of the things that most of us lack.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope someday that I can do what you do.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man.
Mason, because it's I don't know, man. What do I say here? You're a gangster for God. Like, I don't know. How does that, like, put that?
Goofy white kid from Sumner. I'll take it, man.
Yeah. Going out there and showing Jesus to people that they don't know him.
Yeah, man.
So that's, we need to support you, dude. So like if somebody was like, dude, I want to support that guy's mission. I have, and I am proud to say that I have. And I hope every single person on this call is like, I got $5 I can spare. You know what I mean? Or I got a little extra change. I can support Mason in his journey. Where would somebody like call? What would they do to help you out?
Yeah. They could go to storylinemissions.org.
Okay.
And then go over to the Give tab. And I'll just say this. Like, I appreciate the plug for myself, but more than anything, man, I tell people, do something you're passionate about. Do something you get excited about. Like, I am like not always. I don't want to come off as super Christian, but like, I've seen God's faithfulness. I know that he's going to take care of us. And so, I know that he's going to take care of us. I just know it because he has, and I have no reason not to trust him.
Well, there's a covenant. It says so in the Bible.
Yep. But I would just say this. So if you go to storylinemissions.org and you go to the Give tab, you'll see all of our missionaries. You can go to our projects. You can see where we're doing work at. And if you're like, hey, I don't really know, then hey, I would love for you to kind of join our team and give to us. So go to Mason Smith or go to our Asia projects. Or if you're passionate about the Caribbean, you're passionate about like Eastern Europe, you're passionate about Africa, like give to what God is doing, like more than anything else. Because the thing that I tell people is it's we can't do what we do without financial support. 100%. Like flights cost money, food costs money, hotels cost money, travel costs money, ministry costs money. Like it just a reality of it. But it's not our job. It's God's job. He is just inviting us in to be a part of it and like do something that's going to get you excited. Because I'll share a story. I think I shared this with you already, but I was preaching at the church a couple months ago and just shared what we were doing. And after I had preached a couple weeks later, I got a letter from a man from our Anamosa campus who's in prison. And this guy is serving a life sentence. And in this letter, he basically wrote, hey, my name is so-and-so. I've been in prison X amount of years. I got saved in prison, but I'll be in here for the rest of my life. He goes, but after you shared, I got so excited because I have been struggling so much to figure out how I can make a difference to my life from my prison cell, basically. He said, but hearing what you're doing, I want to be a part of what God is doing in reaching the unreached people in Asia. So here's $12. I know that this $12 is going to go to help reach unreached people. He goes, I'll never leave this prison cell, but I know I can make a difference. Like that's what I want people to understand is that, yes.
Do you know how much $12 is to a prisoner, by the way? That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To him.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the equivalent of probably $1,000 out here.
Yeah. And like, but like that guy gets it. Like he understood, you know, and like that, I guess that's the biggest thing I want people to understand is, hey, like I am incredibly grateful, but I want you to understand that like you get to be a part of something even greater. Like there is people that will be reached that have never been reached before for the name of Jesus because somebody said, hey, I'm willing to give $5. Because man, and also like, man, that $12, that $5 in a foreign country goes way farther than you can even imagine. I was in Indonesia at the beginning of this year, was meeting up with this ministry and was just talking to this ministry and was just asking kind of what's going on. What do they need help with? What's things that if God answered that prayer today would make their entire life easier. And this person just said, without skipping a beat, rent. They said, we got rent coming up at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And we're struggling. And I said, okay, how much is rent? And the way they do rent is it's a full year. So you pay rent for the whole year, then you're set for the year. And they said, we got rent coming up for the year. And, basically the translation was about 180 USD for a whole year. And I was just like, okay, I reached out to some of my people and just said, hey, there's this ministry needs a little bit of help. Would you be willing to donate a little bit? I had one person say, hey, we got 3 years rent for him. Send it to him.
Yeah.
Covered rent for 3 years. Like we all want to make a difference. Like at the end of the day, as men, as dads, as husbands, as people, like we want to make a difference. And I feel like at times we overcomplicate it. Like, okay, well, I got to make the biggest difference possible. Says who? Like, be faithful with what God has given you. Be faithful with the little. Be faithful with the life that he's given you now in this moment, as broken or as messed up as it is, and you will make a difference. Like, I promise you, you will make a difference. God doesn't need every single millionaire to give millions of dollars to make a difference. He just needs you with your life to do something. And I guess that's the biggest thing I want people to do. So whether it's our ministry, whether it's somebody else's ministry, whether it's your church, whatever it is, like, just do something. Yeah. Get involved in some way. And even if it's just to start with of just getting involved to say, okay, I'm just doing this because I feel like I should. That's okay. Like, go to the gym because you should. Yeah. Eat healthy because you should. Go to bed early because you should. But eventually you're going to start to see the fruit of that. Eventually you're going to start to see God do incredible things through it. Because man, it's the only life we have. And like, again, I don't want to like make myself out to be like super Christian. Like for me, God just made it so clear that this is what we're supposed to do that I had no other choice to do it. I shared this with you when we had coffee a couple weeks ago, but there's a saying my wife and I have around the house that once you become knowledgeable, you become responsible. Ooh. And for me, like I was knowledgeable of what God was calling me into. And now I have responsibility to do something with that. And if I don't do anything with that, then I'm willfully in the knowledge of neglecting what God has called me to do. And for me, it's just like okay, I know, like, I just know I can't unknow it. I know it. Now I have to do something about it. And so this is what God has called us into. And like, and I don't want to make it out of like woe is me. Like, it's like, no, I love it. But God made it very clear that this is what we're called to do.
Yeah.
And it's a joy, man. I'm excited for it. And I'm excited I get to do it with my family even too, man. So
yeah, I have a few questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a father.
I am.
What's your favorite memory being a dad?
Oh man, my favorite memory. Man, I feel like every day. And my boys are 3 and 9 months old, and so they're at an age where it's just chaos all the time, and like, man, just new little fun things here and there. But man, I think my favorite memory has got to just hands down being the first time I held my son. Like, there's nothing like it. Like for the dads out there, like, just like there is nothing like that feeling. But even more than that, I think now it's just watching my sons play together. Like I grew up in a house full of boys, and I remember the memories of like me and my brothers.
Nostalgia wrestling. Of camaraderie.
Yeah. And like just seeing my boys even like at such a young age, like wrestling and playing and everything. And my wife freaks out a little bit, but I'm like, nope, this is normal. It's probably going to get a lot worse, actually.
Yeah. Wait till they start biting.
Yeah. But yeah, just like watching my sons be boys and just kind of live kind of that life that I got to live a little bit is really, really special for me. I love the outdoors. I'm a big hunter, and taking my son out to the woods with me is always something special too. I was able to shoot a deer earlier this year with my son in the blind, and that was special. That was a cool moment to have that. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
What were the first few days of fatherhood like for you?
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I don't think my wife and I slept at all those first 2 or 3 days. Because I mean, you read the books, you go to the classes, you do all the things, but then you get home,
you're in the fire.
Then you're in the fire, and you're like,
then you're in the fire.
They didn't teach us anything. This class, we just spent $60 on nothing. Like,
why did ridiculous. I learn multiplication and division? What was the point of geometry?
Yeah. Like every little noise they make in their crib, you're like up, and you're like, well, I'm awake. I can't sleep now. Yeah. And everything. It was terrifying, but it was some of the sweetest moments, because like, you're like, well, I'm not sleeping, so I might as well hold them, and just man, like the intentional time, like that you get to have with your kids, just uninterrupted, like no phone, no work, like nothing. It was just like our own little world in that moment. Like it was just special. Like, and yeah, so it was challenging, but it was incredible for sure.
When you're gone, what do you want your kids to remember you for?
Oh man. I've thought about this question hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I think above all else, I want my kids to know that there was nothing that I wouldn't do for God.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as like the Christian cliche, because like, again, it can come off that way. But like, we're all going to live for something. We are all going to give our lives devoted to something. Some are going to choose sports. Some are going to choose their passion. Some are going to choose whatever. Some are going to choose themselves. And in a lot of ways, I've done a lot of that already. But nothing is. I haven't found anything greater than God. And so to me, it would be foolish to not then give him everything.
Yeah.
And I just want my kids to be able to say that, like, no, my dad was willing to give everything to God. He was willing to trust God at all costs. My dad was willing to go to great lengths to do what God was calling him to do.
And they should do the same.
And my hope would be that they would do the same. Exactly. Yeah. Cause I mean, that's the goal with fatherhood, right? It's like, I'm not perfect. I have messed up so many times. Like, man,
we're all broken men. Basically.
We are all so broken, dude. So broken. Like, Christian, not Christian, strong believer, new believer. It doesn't matter. Like, pastor of 7 years, missionary, incredibly broken.
Yeah.
But like, man, being a father it's so funny. I have so much more grace for my dad now that I'm a dad.
Yeah.
Like,
me too, man.
Like my and don't get me wrong, like my dad was incredible. But my dad made a ton of mistakes. My dad messed up in huge ways. And there was a lot of hurt from it, man. like there was a lot of hurt, a lot of therapy sessions. And then I became a dad and it was just like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
This is really freaking hard. And it's just, I read a book a couple of years ago that really changed my life. It's called Leading with a Limp. And the premise of the book is really just talking about how so often we avoid our weakness. We avoid the hard parts of our life, the difficulties in our life as like this thing that, oh, if people knew about this, like,
as Q would say it, the part of our life with warts on it.
Right? Exactly. And this guy was just like, no, like it is our job to lead with a limp.
Yeah.
Like,
that's good.
And Pastor Q says, like, never follow a man who doesn't walk with a limp, because a man who walks with a limp is a man who's walked through battle and survived. And like now as a dad, getting to sit down and talk to my dad and be like, hey, how did you do this? And be like, I didn't do it well. Actually, like I did it this way. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Let me learn from that, and like, so I don't want to share too much of the story, because it's my dad's story, but like my dad suffered with, he was an alcoholic for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, just was distant dad, really separate from life and from reality and from a lot of us, and missed a lot of our life because of it. And, but one day I was about 12 years old and, came into my room. Me and my brothers were in there, and he just broke down and just starts crying. And he just says, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, he goes, I've messed up. He goes, I don't know how I'm going to get it right. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to do better. And it was in that moment that, like, for me, it, like, he taught me something he wasn't trying to teach me. And it's that humility is always the best road back. Like, there is not a journey to healing, redemption, and freedom that doesn't go through humility.
Yeah.
And
so true. Oh man, that's so true.
And my dad was willing to humble himself and say, hey, I'm sorry I messed up. And like, as a dad, that's just something that I've held to. Like, man, my son's 3 years old and I still yell at him like he's a 16-year-old at times, because I'm an impatient, angry, broken person. Yeah. And I have to be humble enough to say, hey buddy, I'm really sorry. Even if he doesn't fully understand it.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely you do.
And with my wife too, like I have to be humble enough to say, hey, I'm messing up really bad right now, and I don't really know how to get out of it, but I'm acknowledging that I'm messing up,
Yeah. The concept of repair, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to address that.
100%.
You have to be able to repair. That's one of the things that I say the most to the guys that I talk with on a day-to-day basis is, if you messed up, you have to be willing to repair it. And in order to repair it, you have to humble yourself and admit to what you've done wrong. And that doesn't just mean it comes out of your mouth. That means you have to know it in your heart that you did it wrong.
Yep.
And then apologize for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for my dad, like that's been one of the things that has stuck with me the most, is like, man, yeah, I can mess it up. I can break things pretty bad. but there's always a path back.
Yeah.
Like there's always hope. There's always a opportunity to make it right, to learn and to get better, you know?
Yeah. And that's why the Bible teaches us that forgiveness isn't for the person that we're giving it to.
Exactly.
It's for us.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. So I don't know what the question was, but that's my long answer.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. So on a different track here.
Yeah.
Going back to the moment when you were a kid, and being, you know, in that pit of depression. I know what you did. I know what you did in that moment. You prayed, you sat down, you prayed to God.
Yeah.
What advice would you give? It doesn't have to be a kid. It could be a man. It could be somebody that's going through a moment where he just got slapped in the face with an F on his report card of life.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's in despair. What do you say to that guy? What advice do you, if you could step in front of that man at that point in time when he's at his lowest, what would you say to him?
Yeah, man. I almost don't want to say this because it's going to sound cliche, but I'm telling you this because it saved my life. Put your hope in God. Like, put your hope in God. And that hope is sometimes going to look like, okay, hey, I'm going to stop trying this thing now. Okay, I'm going to stop drinking for a little bit. I'm going to stop hanging out with these people, and I'm going to just spend more time with you. Sometimes it's just okay, I'm going to acknowledge you're there. Like, and I'm going to acknowledge that you care about this. But it's starting that journey, because like anybody that spent any amount of time living knows life is going to kick you in the teeth. It's going to kick you in the teeth again and again and again and again.
And you're going to feel like you're on the top of the world at some point, and you've licked it all, and then it's going to kick you in the teeth again.
And then you're going to realize that it's not all it's supposed to be. Yeah. And like the only thing that satisfies, the only thing that truly saves is Jesus. Again, like it sounds cliche, and like, I'm sorry for that, but at the same time, I'm not, because I'm living it.
Well, God's not a cliche. He's very real.
He's very real.
And once you acknowledge that, like everything
real.
gets a lot better.
Yep. Like,
tell me how your life is going without God in it. I bet it sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's like, we so often as Christians, so often we want to grow in our faith of God, but we don't give him opportunities to be faithful. Like, God, give me, like, I want to trust you. He puts us in opportunities to trust him, and then we get angry at him.
That's the key. He puts us in opportunities to take advantage of that opportunity and grow through it. But if we are on the fence and we choose sin instead, we cannot take advantage of the opportunity that he's blessed us with.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like really look at this as an opportunity. Like God is a father above all else.
Yeah.
Like he's a creator. He's a king. He's a father. He wants to spend time with his kids. This is him calling back to us to say, hey, I want to spend time with you. Hey, I want you to get to know me. Hey, I want to actually fix these problems in your life instead of just putting a Band-Aid over it. Like, hey, I want to show you that even in the midst of this, I still love you and you still have hope.
Yeah.
Like see this as an opportunity to come back to God and then just begin that journey. Like whether you have no relationship with God at all, or you have a deep relationship with God that's maybe fallen apart, like take this as an opportunity to just begin that journey again, because I've been on medication. I've gone to therapy. I've done all the things you're supposed to do. And let me just say this too. Like, if you need to get on medication, please get on medication. I'm not anti-medication or anti-therapy, but at the end of the day, the only thing that saved me was Jesus.
Yeah.
It really was. And I would also say this too, like if you don't know how to do it on your own, find somebody else to talk to too. Like, man, one of the most heartbreaking things for me, not just in like the depression and like mental health realm, but just with men in general, is just this idea that we just have to do it on our own. Like, just fix it. Just figure it out, dude.
No,
like,
you don't.
Like, no, like, please, for the love of God, talk to somebody.
Yes.
Like, because I promise somebody else is dealing with it too.
Yep.
And somebody else is too afraid to be like open to talk about it.
That's why you lead with a limp.
Exactly. It's like, I mean, I would always tell our students, like, somebody always has to be the first one. Like, there's a whole group of people, there's a whole generation that's willing to follow if somebody will just be the first. Why not you? You know? And so for the guy out there, I would say, hey, somebody is waiting for somebody else to be open, to be courageous enough, to be bold enough to say, hey, I'm messed up. Hey, I've got some issues. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. And then a whole other group of people are going to say, yeah, hey, me too. Hey, can we go through this together? And like, it makes a world difference. It just does. Absolutely does.
It does. And nobody, if we posture and we pretend that we're flawless and all of that, nobody can come to us and be like, hey dude, how did you deal with that problem that you had?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Some of the best friendships that I have today are the ones that I walked into, stepping into it with all of my brokenness, sitting there in my hands and being like, guys, this is what I've been through.
Exactly.
And and it changes the entire dynamic. It's almost kind of, it'll almost shock people sometimes.
Yep.
Like people that I start talking to, they're like, well, what'd you say?
Yep.
You shouldn't be telling me that.
Yeah.
Like, you what?
Yeah.
Give it a little bit to resonate. And all of a sudden, you know what comes out? Me too.
Yeah. Amen.
Me too.
Amen. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I have this, I found this. It says, if you rearrange the letters in depression, you'll get, I pressed on.
Amen.
Your current situation is not your final destination.
Amen. Amen.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'd also just say this too. I'm going to do my best not to cry. I last year had a friend of mine committed suicide. And like I've had people in my life commit suicide, but never as close as he was. And I'm ashamed to say the last couple of years of his life, we weren't close at all.
Yeah.
Like it just, we kind of went our separate ways, but for a couple of years, like man, we were close. And it gave me a perspective I've never had before, like being on this side of it, that before I could say, and because I'm living it, like, man, like life is worth living. Like whatever your darkest day feels like, I promise God can do something with it. Like I promise, like there is light at the end of the tunnel. And now being here with like on this side of it and him saying like, no, I don't know that. I don't believe that. I don't want that. And ending his life. Like I say that with even more confidence, like there is hope. Like if you feel like there is no hope for you right now, like if maybe even if you're listening to this and you feel like, man, my life is not worth living, I promise you, when this guy committed suicide, within an hour, his Facebook was flooded with people. And maybe that's our fault. Yeah. And maybe that's our, like, we need to do a better job of reaching out to people that we know are hurting. But I promise you, there are people that care. I promise you, there are people that if you leave this earth, they are going to be heartbroken and they are going to be just absolutely destroyed. Like, I promise you the day gets better. Like, if I would have taken my life as a teenager, I would not have the wife that I have today. I would not have the kids that I have today. I would not have the life that I have today. Like, I couldn't have imagined that my life would end up the way it is. And I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I just knew, okay, I just need to get through today. I just need to go till tomorrow. I just need to get to tomorrow. I just need to get to tomorrow, next day. And after a while, I get to a point where I'm like, okay, like this is getting better. And now, like looking back on it, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine doing it any other way.
Your mess became your message, bro.
Amen.
And Amen. At the end of the day, it's God's message.
It is God's message.
Yeah. So
never
to lose sight of that.
Amen. Yeah.
Your test is your testimony.
All of it.
So
yeah. So I mean, if there's somebody out there listening, like practically, I would just say, hey, reach out because people care. But then also, man, just press on. And if you don't have the strength, guess what? God does.
Yeah. Lean in.
That is what Jesus came for. Jesus said, hey, I didn't come for the healthy. I came for the sick. If you feel sick, man, you are a great candidate for Jesus to do some incredible work.
Yeah. And the thing is, guys, I do this podcast. So Mason joins us and we're all in agreement when we decide to do these things, that if you're struggling, if you're somebody that's struggling, this is a community that you can lean into.
Amen.
Mason has a Facebook page. His messenger works. I've used it. I've reached out to him. He'll answer you. And if you're struggling, he's somebody that, you can lean into.
Amen.
And so am I. So,
Amen.
And every single guy that's been on this podcast, same goes for them. So if you're struggling, this is a community for you guys to lean into. So
100%.
There you go.
100%. Yeah.
Anything else for us, Mason?
Man, I'm just honored, man. It's yeah. I mean, what we do is tough. Like this is a safe place to acknowledge, like,
yeah,
man, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good man, trying to be a good husband. Like it's tough.
Yep.
Like our wives have challenges as well. Our kids have challenges as well, but like to do it the right way is tough. And I'm grateful to have somebody like you and have a community like this that's there so the guys don't have to do it alone. Like really that's what it is, because man, it's a quote from Edmund Burke. It says, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And like
that's good.
The temptation is for us to just do nothing, to just go through the motions.
Oh yes.
To just
let it go.
Yep. Do the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Come home to the good wife, get the kids through 18 years. Like just go through the motions. And like, let me just be very clear. That's enough. Like for some of us, if all we're ever going to do is love our kids and love our wife, that's enough. But man, there's so much more that we could do too.
For each other.
For each other. Amen. Like if all we ever do is give God everything we have, man, we'll be amazed at all that life can look like and all that God can do. And yeah, man, I'm just thankful and I'm grateful that you invited me to be a part of this and to kind of share a little bit about what we're doing and everything that God has kind of brought us through, and just to get to be a part of this as well. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mason.
Yeah.
See ya.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, I want to thank you with all my heart. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps us out. If you have questions about getting sober, parenting, or personal growth, email Nick at domesticdadproject.com with any questions about cleaning up the messes you've made. And if your question is discussion worthy, we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. Don't forget, you can watch any of these videos uncut and unedited, filmed in my studio from our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Domestic Dad Project. Also, please follow us on Facebook or share this episode on your social media. You can also join our community by grabbing some merch. It means the world to me to know that this podcast is making a difference in someone's life. And if this episode inspired you to get sober or simply become a better version of yourself, you can claim your free 60-minute coaching session by visiting www.domesticdadproject.com. Let's continue supporting each other to break the stigma around dads reaching out for help, to get our lives on track while navigating the obstacles of fatherhood. Until next time, keep cleaning up the mess.